talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen, listen.
I've been here, just the Black Country Blokes, chewing the fact about everything it is mental health, depression, disability, and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner, as always, Lee Cadman. And today we're joined again by Vicky. Now, Vicky come on to our radio show on Black Country Extra, but it's the first time we've been to the studio. So thank you, Vicky, for coming.
Thank
You've
you
been
for
before,
having me.
actually, haven't you? We had to kick you out.
The internet went down,
The
didn't it?
internet went down, yeah.
And Vicky's a dietitian, and she's going to be telling us all about New Year's diets and not getting involved in fatty diets and sometimes the attachment being positive or negative with food. But before we do that, we're going to do, as we always do, our gratitude list. Now, today, because it's Health Week, so I went into my little girl's primary school, me, Dad, and one of my coaches, Josh, and it was great being around the little ones and seeing my daughter in her element at school and seeing her little friends. It's, oh, you're Jasmine's daddy. And it was great, being there and playing games and giving our little gems of wisdom, saying about like why you shouldn't, why you enjoy everything, enjoy sport and get into sport. And I walked in and said, we have two rules here, and we have two rules at the boxing club: good manners and no bullies. Because there's nothing worse than a bully, and someone who's got bad manners. I want the kid to put his hand up and said, I get bullied. And my heart sank, and we say, well, it's cruel. You shouldn't be getting bullied. And what do we do if you see someone getting bullied? I went, oh, you stop them. And that doesn't mean you've got to go have a fight. It just means come over, I'll be your friend, and come and sit by me, and you can have your dinner. And getting the kids to talk about feelings and hearing it from a big, tough boxing coach. Go, well, it's not very nice, is it, to be cruel? And kindness, we want to be contagious. And do we not understand what contagious means? Yes, and just explaining being kind and nice. And that, it's lovely doing that at babies' levels up to adult levels. So I'm grateful to giving a bit of knowledge to the kids, about boxing and about kindness and just being nice. What are you grateful for?
Oh, we have a new PA who's working out brilliantly. So I'm going to mention Mandy. Thank you very much. She's on just started the second week now, and it's going really well. And it's great to see someone interacting with Calla and becoming part of our family.
And Vic, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for a healthy heart on the heart day of Valentine's Day. I know I did get a card.
Patron saint of epilepsy as well, Saint Valentine's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I was just thinking they were on about. I was watching a bit of the morning TV this morning on, and they were talking about having a healthy heart, and I was thinking actually, sometimes just a nice thing to be grateful for. You know what I mean? Just kind of, and then in my job, I speak to a lot of people with heart-related issues or kind of high cholesterol. I'm thinking, I'm grateful for a healthy heart today.
Well, we said that sometimes I'm grateful. What have I got to be grateful for? What have and you're thinking? You're alive. You're well. You can breathe and you can sit upright. You can breathe. You can, and it's when I go to the toilet, it flushes. I can go to the toilet when I want to go to the toilet, and you go, well, yeah. Any of those things get taken away. It's amazing how miserable your life can be. So being grateful, having a good heart, being grateful for all these little things, and life might be tough, but it could always be a lot worse than it is right now. So be grateful for what you do have. So Vicky, tell us what your actual job role is.
My actual job. So I am a primary care network dietitian. And what that means is that my role is in supporting GP surgeries. So in community. So my community I look after is Dudley and Netherton here in the Black Country. It's helping really for people to access sort of nutrition, useful and easy, simple to understand nutrition information that helps to support, I guess, different illnesses, prevent illnesses or kind of issues related to diet. So they can be anything that ranges from sort of sort of bowel related things, or it could be sort of celiac disease, or which is so people have to follow a gluten-free diet. It could be people who are losing weight, perhaps unintentionally, so perhaps at risk of malnutrition, and also supporting people who might be above an ideal weight to lose weight, to help them to reduce the risks of related problems like heart disease, so that health, going back to that healthy heart, diabetes, and some cancers as well.
So last time we were on the bag, in fact, we were talking about how high malnutrition is.
Yeah, so a lot of people will, so malnutrition, disease related malnutrition, so that's where people are more at risk of becoming malnourished, and that could be because they've got cancer or COPD, so a respiratory condition that puts them more at risk of being underweight. It could be sort of swallowing difficulties, a whole manner of things that put people at risk of being undernourished, I guess, not meeting what they need for their physical requirements. But of course, at the moment, we also know that another cause could be access to food, financial worries, lack of finances, or perhaps even sort of mobility, I guess, as well, of getting the shopping, preparing food, facilities to prepare food. So
I mean, when you've got a health condition, i.e. like an Alzheimer's, and maybe you forgot to eat or you forgot to drink, that is bloody terrible. When it's an illness, a disease, a curse.
Yeah.
When buggers in the United Kingdom can't afford to eat, that's just madness, isn't it?
it is. It
you know,
is.
when people, and we all know it's like it's cheaper to buy 6 packs of crisps than it's to buy 1 bag of crisps. A bag of crisps is like £1. You go, oh, but I could have 6 for £1.50. So you buy 6, so you eat 6. Or a bag of chips is cheaper than bloody some vegetables. It's gone mad, hasn't it?
It has.
And when we're feeding, and when we had Julie on from the food bank, you'll feed someone anything to fill their tummies. And sometimes it doesn't matter if it's unhealthy, you want their little tummies being fed, don't you?
Yeah.
And in an ideal world, if we can eat better food and we can afford it, we will do it. But sometimes it's the cost, isn't it? And that's so crappy and cruel, isn't it?
It is. It's almost like we're saying, sometimes I think it's like a massive divide when it comes to cost, because I guess I sometimes think, well, it's no coincidence that when you go into more deprived areas, there is often much fewer opportunities to purchase healthy food. So if you've got a shop that's not stocking a lot of fresh produce, economics would often say that shop's going to charge you a lot more for that product, you know. So even my budgeons at the end of my road will charge, you know, this, I just noticed this the other day, so I've got this figure on the top of my head, but it was £1.30 for an iceberg lettuce that, you know, I wanted to make some wraps at home. Now in the supermarket, that's only about 45-50p. And so you just, if you live on within a housing area that doesn't have a large supermarket or a market, perhaps even, or you don't have the ability to get to your local place, it can make it really challenging. So you can understand, whereas you've got a couple of freezers that might have a couple of pizzas, burgers, you know, some of the things that we know are, you know, ultra processed, which is a kind of buzzword going around at the moment, and also high in fats and likely to be you know, not part of a healthy, balanced diet. So I do sometimes think, you know, we put a lot of responsibility on an individual to make better choices, but there is also a collective responsibility of, like, people who plan housing and people who plan how many fast food establishments there are in a certain area, because most of us will make choices based on cues, won't we? A cue. Do I, you know, we might, oh, I can smell something. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, what is it? Oh, I'll have it, you know, be it whatever, chip shop, kebab shop, or pizza, or
sausage roll,
sausage
roll.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean, it's fast and easy.
absolutely. So if we are constantly subjected to those types of cues, it's common. It's going to result in more of making the wrong choices like that. That's so. Sometimes I do, I think that there's a lot of responsibility, like in in kind of how much of this food is available. But of course, there aren't that many. I think there are rules now around how many fast food outlets there can be as close to schools. But I don't know whether that's just advisory or whether it's actually a rule. But it does make you think when you go to the more deprived areas. Why is it takeaway after takeaway after takeaway after takeaway after takeaway? Very few shops selling fresh produce, and then you go to a more affluent area maybe, and there's delis and fresh
then it's just
food
coffee
produce
shops,
and
which
coffee
are also
shops.
happening for you.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think. I don't. That it is really challenging, isn't it? And then also going back to food education as well, cooking skills and time.
I think it's also education of labels, because you go to some supermarkets and you'll see there's a salad there. That's the healthy option.
Yeah.
You stop and read the sauces in it and realise actually,
But a lot of people
that's not
don't.
healthy.
Because once again, if you're having a McDonald's, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
But you go, I'm on a diet. Pasta's good for you, isn't it? Yeah, I'll have a pasta and a bit of salad. And you go, and as you say, until you educate it or you look at it, and you go, bloody hell, that's got as much sugar in it as a. And that's when it's cruel. And we said this last time on the radio, on a can of pop, instead of going, it's got 2.5 sugar, put a line saying, this is how much sugar is in the can, or this is how many tablespoons of sugar is in it. If you put it
make
in
it relatable.
layman's terms, but you come up with a good tip on that last time. Was it 100 grams of?
Oh yeah.
You tried to explain it to me.
Want to explain it again?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's okay. You're right. Food label. I mean, I certainly didn't do food label when I was at school, but then I'm not sure how, how much foods were labelled then, if you get what I mean. Obviously, we've got the traffic light system now, which is a system on the front of the packet, which again is advisory. It's not mandatory for food companies to put that on, and obviously they use the red, green and amber to show kind of the foods that are higher in fats, higher in sugar, higher in saturated fat and high in salt. But there's also some shifty work going on around that, because you look and it'll say per half a pack and you think, well, who's going to eat half a pack, so I always suggest that we flip over the label and look per 100 grams, because 100 grams is like looking at 100%, and anybody who's not into maths just goes, right, I'm switched off now. But if you think about 100, I think about that being the whole of something. So if it says it's 50 grams, it's half. And if it says it's 25, it's a quarter. So if this item, whether I take in full a spoonful or a plateful, it's 25 or 50% high fat, high sugar. And we can think, do I want to eat a product that's a quarter sugar or a quarter fat or a quarter salt, whatever it might be? And it's just a good way of thinking, a way of looking at. There are guidelines around what is a high fat product and what is a high sugar product. And a great place, if anybody wants to look at that information, is British Heart Foundation. I keep coming back to the heart today, actually. British Heart Foundation have got some great stuff on their website. And you can also order like leaflets as well, that's got almost like a thing you put in your purse, that you can look at what high fat, high sugar products is. And I think in other countries, they've got something similar as well to give you a guide. And although it takes a bit of familiarising yourself with, I think we have to be our own detective. We can't rely on food manufacturing companies to police their own products, you know.
I think a lot of it's the same with a lot of restaurants now have to put calories to each meal.
They do.
But even that's kind of deceiving, because you can have, if you're not clued up, you can have a meal that's 300 calories. But what does that really mean? Is that 300 good calories, or is that just 300 calories of a chocolate bar? You know, it's
so we're not. So yeah, you're right. We're focusing, aren't we, on the energy content of the food. So so I think that if an establishment's got more than I can't. Again, I should remember. I think it's 50 or. Might be 200, might be 50. That's quite a big difference. But it's only the big organisations that have to do it anyway. But everybody else, it's just recommended. So, like you say, first of all, you'd need to know, well, what are the recommended guidelines for adults to have every day? So you'd need to be able to think about that, wouldn't you? And you also need to, again, have a fairly good understanding of maths to be able to say, okay, well, as a woman, I'm recommended to have 2,000 calories a day. So if this meal is 1,000, that is, half my calories. And although that, it's not always that easy, and it's definitely not always that easy for everybody to be able to kind of make that, connection. A lot of people, when they see numbers, they switch off. So, but it's better than not having it, isn't it?
Oh, there's a debate about. I was reading someone on Twitter who had an eating disorder, and actually you're never going to please everyone by having it, but they struggle with having those on there, and it kind of made them eat less because there's a worry around taking a calorie in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there is an argument for, and I've seen some of those kind of discussions as well, and you can't help but, obviously there is, absolute, you'd understand why that can be difficult. So, and I get what you said, just going back to a minute ago about, is it helping to nudge our behaviour? And I've seen some research recently to say it makes no difference to people's choices.
Well, I think if you go into if you think of, like you say, it's someone with a big organisation, you kind of know if you're going to McDonald's, it's unhealthy, like Kev said. So would you change your ways because it's got a calorie count on there?
Yeah.
I don't think I would. I know I'm going somewhere, I'm going to eat probably too much of bad stuff.
So I'm going to go to the chip shop and I have a kebab. They say, do you want salad? I'm having a kebab. No, I don't want no salad. I'll pick the unhealthy option.
I think as well, I think we do need, one thing I like about the having energy on is it does open some people are surprised, but like what you said earlier about when you pick up a salad, it's a Caesar salad and you go, my gosh, it's the same as having, something that you might have thought had been unhealthy. So I like the fact that we're moving towards the concept that we can get education around what food contains, but we aren't just looking at energy, are we? We're talking about, if we're thinking about all of the other nudges that we need to make to head towards a more balanced diet. Like you say, we want to know about whether, how much fruits and vegetables might be in it. We might want to know, some people are interested in where it's actually been, sourced from, for instance, or we might want to, there's so much more information. We might want to know the sort of fat content of it, or
sorry, but I mean, a lot of people with dietitians have the ideal plate of food, don't they? And I can't remember the figures now, but you have a quarter protein, a quarter of this, and then half of it veg or salad. And I think that kind of be better on the packaging, something visual going, well, actually this contains this much, and then you go, well, the salad part of it's not as big as the carb part, so that should be the other way. And you look and go, that's unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the plate that you're talking about is the Eat Well guide, which I recommend anybody who's interested in making movements towards. And I keep saying this movement towards because I tell everybody I'm yet to meet anybody who's got a perfect diet, and I don't think I ever will. And I certainly haven't. And I think it's about moving towards that. So if you're a million miles away from that right now, from eating sort of that, like you say, the large portion of our foods from whole grains and starch, and then the other sort of large part from vegetables and fruits and salads, and then a small part from protein and a small part from dairy or dairy alternatives, and even a small part of healthy fats, then it helps to think, well, we've got a lot of, there's places we can start from, small changes. On the Eat Well guide, the foods high in fats and sugars that we've just been referencing, the kebab, the McDonald's, the fish and chips, the caramel a shot in your latte, those types of things. We don't really, I guess, see them as nutritious because they're high in fat, they're high in sugar, they contribute towards a diet that is putting us more at risk of sort of diabetes and heart disease. So they're not even on that plate. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of us would may include those foods quite frequently. So by familiarizing ourselves with something like the Eat Well guide, and again, different countries have different versions of that guide, but they all pretty much operate on the same theory that by having that balanced diet, we get all of the nutrition that we need. We get the energy we need, we get the protein building blocks that we need, we get the healthy fats that we need, we get the calcium we need for our bones, we get the fluid we need, we get the fiber we need for healthy bowels, and we also get the variety. But we don't need to have that. We don't need to be perfect at that. There's a place for the foods high in fats and sugars. We just need to make them less often and less frequent.
As you said, it's the small changes, and you were saying about what can make you change.
Yeah.
I'm on my health kick, like most of us. I had the flu over Christmas, and it was triggering my panic attacks. I couldn't breathe, and it was urging me to move. And I thought, I don't want to die yet. So I thought, so I've cut the booze out. I've had no takeaways, and I'm saying I'm never going to drink. We're going away this weekend. We're going to have a bloody good drink. We're going to have a real good laugh as a treat. I haven't had a takeaway, but I've been training 5 days a week, and then on the weekend we're going out for walks. And I've got my wife and my daughter a Fitbit. She wanted a Fitbit because a friend, but it's encouraging her to move. And I've told my wife, because we're all trying to lose a bit of weight and everything, and I said, just type in the calories, because then you think about, do I really want that, Vicky? Do I? And it's a conscious. And you go, you know what? I want 10 biscuits. Great, treat yourself. But it's making that conscious decision, then, isn't it? Or bloody hell, I've been on the running machine for 10 minutes and I've only burnt off 7 calories.
That's always depressing, isn't it? Going on the running machine and seeing that.
It's making you think. Then, do I want another can of Coke? Do I want a pudding? Yes. You know what? I've had a bad. I'll have one. And it's changing our mind. And I always think it takes lots of little changes, not one big change. One big change can easily be unchanged. But if I make a series of small changes, as you were saying before we come on, those little things make a big difference, don't they?
And it doesn't matter as much if you drop one of those small changes.
It's about, I think I'm reading this fantastic book at the moment, which is, I think it's in like the bestsellers at the moment. It's called Atomic Habits and I find that I just find even the title encouraging, because it's like the atomic habits, the smallest changes. And it really resonates with me as a person, but also with the people that I talk to on a daily basis, that we often look at where we want to get to. We look at the goal. I want to be 2 stone lighter. I want to be fit, and I want to be able to run a marathon. I want to be able to, they're massive goals, and it's not saying that they're not achievable goals either, but it's the goal is great and as encouraging and motivational, but it ain't going to get you there to say that that's what you want to do. What's going to get there is the actions. And I think for a lot of people will recognize that if we go big with those actions, they're unrealistic. They're not going to happen. We talked about the SMART goals, didn't we, when we spoke before? I remembered that. If we think about, I'm not going to eat, that's it, I'm not having any sugar, I'm never having any booze again, I'm gonna, they're hard to sustain. They're very, very hard to sustain, which then leads to disappointment, which then leads to the head going down, which then leads to negative reinforcement that we're useless, we can't do it, it's impossible. And so I often remind people about the cumulative effect of small changes. So small habit changes that then add up to eventually over time a reduction, perhaps an improvement in our overall diet, or improvement in the amount that we're moving. And it allows us to be a little bit more positive about ourselves as well, that we're moving in the right direction. We might take a step back now and again, but the direction we're moving in is nourish ourselves and to move more. And I find that it's really interesting how different people go about doing that as well, because we often think, because we say it, it's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to eat less biscuits. I'm going to have less takeaways. I'm going to go to the gym. But again, it's not going to make it happen. So I've been working a lot of trying to think about how we almost trip ourselves up, you know, how we almost like, you know, what can we do to kind of change what we're doing? Even things like, you know, setting alarms to until we get used to getting into a certain behavior. So it might be an alarm at 10:30, so when pop out for a walk, or you know, it might be an alarm that goes off when you walk in the door, when you normally open the fridge straight away, to say take the dog out rather than open the fridge. You know, what little things. And in that book they talk about this really interesting thing of stacking your habits. So if you've got a good habit already, I brush my teeth, you know, brush my teeth twice a day, quite a good habit, been installed for quite a long time. Tack your other healthy habit onto that. So
drink a glass of water after you've done your
absolutely, you know, do some stretching, you know, stretch your legs while you're doing that, or perhaps while you're brushing your hand, you want to do some sort of like motion bicycle, and it becomes the thing. If you stack it onto a good habit, it becomes something. And I love that. I love the concept of it, that it's really challenging yourself not to get to your goal, right? I want to get massive biceps or whatever, you know. It's challenging yourself to just do an action and enjoy it and make it small, but make them count. And
it's about enjoying it. It's just because, like, the first month you cruise off, so you're naturally high off it, aren't you? Going, I'm smashing it.
Yeah,
I feel better. Like the first couple of weeks off the booze, so you're not sleeping well. Then all of a sudden you start sleeping brilliant, and you're waking up not hungover, and you're going, I'm bloody enjoying this, you know. And then the novelty wears off, and you think, well, you jump on the scales. I haven't had a takeaway in a month. I've bound to have lost at least 5 stone. I've put a K on. And you go, but then you think, but your body's changing, your shirts, but it's easy then to go, sod it.
yeah.
But then you go, this is when the universe is going to test me. This is when all my positive will is going to be tested. On the other side of this is when the change is going to happen. So as I said to you off it, I did measurements. I'm around about the same weight, but I've lost 2 to 3 inches off my stomach, and you go, bloody hell, that's where I want to lose it. And I've put on almost an inch around my arm, and you go, but we can either fixate on the scale or the actual actions. And then you go, but you know what? I'm waking up with a baby, and I've got energy. I'm having my brekkie. I've never had brekkie, so I get the baby ready. I'm doing this. I'll get a piece of toast. I eat the toast just before we leave. Never had breakfast, but it makes you hungry in the day. And then you focus on your food. I'm eating a very high but it's, as you say, little changes. I come back from work and normally I'd go in, sit down, watch The Big Bang. Oh, I'm a bit tired. I'll have a little bit of a snooze. Now I put my music on in the kitchen and I do Potter.
Yeah.
But it's those little changes that are making the differences.
And what do you do to remind yourself of all of those? Like, because there was like a tirade of positivities there, but they kind of, I don't know about you, but we forget about them. I don't know whether you have any like things that you do to like remember all of these, that you keep to remember all of these positive things that you do. Do you check in every day? Is that how you do it?
I do want my gratitude lists and stuff like that. And I just go like, what I also do through doing this and through my life and everything. The other day I woke up, my phone was playing up and I knocked my toe and something went off and I went to go down the spiral. I haven't lost my way to do it. And I went, stop it yourself, git. Your phone will get fixed. And I just had to remind myself of all the things that were going right. And then I went, well, come up here. And someone told me some heartbreaking stuff about his kid. And I thought, you're moaning about WhatsApp going off your phone. He's got real problems. And by me sitting here talking, he feels better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought, it ain't all doom and gloom.
No, that's it.
And then the weight will come off.
That's it.
I am doing more weight, but I'm feeling better. And it's reminding yourself about it.
Yeah. But what is interesting there, what I sometimes hear as well, is like the things that you mentioned about your energy and, you know, your better food choices, your improvements in your physique and your physical health. Like, that's why you want to, why you would kind of, I guess, set out on this mission to lose weight.
Yeah, and
So-
to be healthy for my daughter.
So it's almost like interesting, isn't it, of like that the weight, the scales, that we still hold them. Like, I think it's like a conditioning thing that we still hold them as this meter of evidence, you know, like, oh well, it doesn't matter because I've got all of this stuff. But all that stuff was what you were doing it for in the first place.
Yeah.
So actually the weight scale number
Don't
is
matter.
so irrelevant.
Mm.
It's so irrelevant because you are already achieving what you set out to do.
But you feel like this little scales genie
It's-
is going,
Yeah,
well
yeah.
done, old pal, you've done
Yeah,
it.
when actually,
Well, it's a measure. It's the thing is about it. It's something that you can see is changing.
Yeah.
Physically, look down and go, well, that number's gone down, or that number's gone up.
Yeah, so I must be doing well or bad.
Yeah,
we need a
yeah.
scale for mental health, don't
Yeah,
we?
that's the one.
Should we get a
Mm.
scale, like invent a scale that you stand on every day, and it kind of like, you know, gives you a scale of
we
like
have
where
got-
you are.
We've spoke about this before, though, haven't we, Kev? How often do you stop and think about how you're feeling? I mean, actually think about how you're feeling. Not waking up and going, well, I feel great. You don't wake up and go, I feel great today. You wake up and you get going.
One of my
Instead of
coach,
stopping and thinking,
Yeah.
actually, I do feel good today.
one of my coaches we did this at Christmas, and we go like, oh, it's been one of them years. It was at Christmas, we're having a drink on my birthday. Oh, it's been one of them years. Well, actually, old pal. Oh, and you've passed your level 1, you've done this, you had your first bet, and we went through it, and he went, you're right. It's been a pretty good year, hasn't it? But it's so easy to go, oh, ain't it been shit?
Yeah.
Oh, but you go, well, actually, boom, 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 and you go, yeah, when you break it down, it's,
Yeah.
but we have to do that
Yeah, you have to stop and
with ourselves and
Yeah.
give ourselves. Have I won a world title now? Am I a millionaire now? Have I? No, I'm still
Yeah.
going. I'm an happy chappy.
Yeah.
My daughter's growing up. My wife's happy. I love her. I love him. I've got people in my life that I love. I've got things I can aim for. I am getting better. And you go, you know what? It
Yeah.
could be a lot worse. In fact, it's blooming marvelous.
It's all right, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's what I try and encourage people to do with their diet changes as well, is just be thinking, you know, seeing it as what actions have you done. So even keeping like, as you know, go a bit like a reward chart that we might do with kids, but just something like at the end of the night that you might go, actually, I've gone from eating no portions of fruits and vegetables to having 2 today. That is a massive improvement. That is a good improvement, and that's what I'm, you know, and that's what I'm proud. So it's just like you say, it's taking like joy in the act, taking joy and it from the action, not the goal, because the goal will always follow if you're like, we're not ever going to get any results if we don't change anything. But if we, so it's almost like the changes that we should be holding up in this like high regard, and not the weight genie who wants to. I won't swear, but you know,
you can
Well,
on
You
this
swear as
fine.
much as you want.
piss on our parade.
Didn't feel good.
It did make me feel good. Yeah, it is.
What
It
you
is.
said, what you were saying off there earlier, it's about like how our body gets used to only eating a certain amount of calories, and then when we move back up to where we were, do you know what I'm on about?
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
I
to
can,
people,
yeah.
please? You explained it so well earlier.
So a lot of people. So I see. I have in the past done a lot of like work in weight management, and people have said, well, often at the beginning we'll say, if people who here's lost weight, and near enough always people will put their hand up, because these are the people who might have done different diets, different restrictions, different eliminations, or gone how to leather at the gym, and they've lost a significant amount of weight. And then I'll ask, which one of you's put that weight on and more? And near enough every single same hand goes up. And always like to kind of explain how the body really does kind of galvanize a bit of an attack on us once we've lost weight. So if we are losing weight quite quickly, and when I say quickly, as a dietitian, we usually recommend like 1 to 2 pounds a week, or half to 1 kilogram a week. Now, again, I kind of say that, but I would still encourage people to not weigh themselves and think about what they're doing to make changes. But I'll come back to that. So what we talk about is when people have lost weight, the body will think of it as a bit of a weak link. Really, you're on your way out, matey. Like you're not your survival of the fittest. We want to keep you at the weight that you are. And like we were saying earlier, it probably goes back to our ancestry of where we didn't have an abundance of food. We had to go out and search for our food and really work hard for it. Now I'll just pop up the Asda. It's not quite the same, but our bodies haven't adapted. So if we're losing weight quite quickly, it does three things. Sort of changes our metabolism so that we need a lot less energy. It preserves the energy we're giving it to do daily activities of movement and whatever, thinking, all the stuff the body does all day that uses energy. So it down regulates that. We need less. Then it also upregulates our appetite. So the hormones involved in regulating appetite, it increases them. So we have a desire to eat more. So we're trying to lose weight. We've lost a lot of weight. And now the body is making us more hungry than we were before. And then the third thing is it down regulates like our little movements, the movements that we make. I mean, I'm a fidgeter. You've probably noticed I sit here moving all the time. But when you're ill, you got a cold and you feel flawed, you're on the sofa and you really, really don't move. And that's your body's way of preserving energy and kind of resting. And your body does that when you lose weight really quickly also. So your metabolism's changed and you need a lot less. You're more hungry. And then your general movement has declined. So it is so much easier to regain that weight. So a lot of people experience a plateau. They don't, I'm doing all of this. I'm not eating, I'm doing all of this. I'm exercising. I'm hardly eating anything at all. I've cut right back, but yeah, I'm not losing any more weight. And then the habits start to creep in because they're not really well formed. We've gone on a quick fix. We've done, shake diet or cabbage diet or something extreme. And our behaviors kind of go back. We start to exercise less and we start to sneak in the odd McDonald's or kebab. And the body now wants all of those kind of, it wants to basically go back to the weight it was. And it's really easy to get back to that weight and then gain weight because of those mechanisms.
And you were saying something about the fat cells. Was it one of you who was saying about storing fat cells? Who was it?
Yeah. So I always thought that when you gain weight, that you're gaining more fat cells. But that's not the case. It's that the fat cells you have are getting fatter.
Yeah, right? So I'm trying to think of the exact science, but my understanding is that once fat cells, like tissues, like the tissue that are made up of fat cells, they want to remain fat cells. So that's really easy to regain weight because of cell memory of what they were utilized for. So being overweight makes you predisposition to being overweight again, so it's really very easy. And a lot of people have found that if they've done yo-yo dieting. So often I'll ask people, tell me about weight loss history, and there'll have been a history of lost a stone, gained 2 stone, lost a stone, gained 3 stone. There'll be a lot of that, and that will have an impact and does make you predispositioned to kind of it much more likely to be able to regain that weight. And that's why a good diet, if you like, the word's been hijacked a little bit, hasn't it, because diet just is what you eat, but a good program, let's say, towards long-term weight loss is about making the types of changes that you want to do for the future. Because if it's a quick fix, all of those things we just spoke about, they inevitably are going to make you put weight back on. So if we think about the small changes that we can make, that we want to do long term, and we're going to build on them, it's very unlikely we're going to be someone who never consumes sugar ever. It's highly unlikely that we're never going to, eat a food high in fats and sugars, and also it's, doesn't do much for your mental health or your quality of life to restrict like that. So I think it's about, how can I increase activity? Wherever base level you are now, we've got some room for improvement, and that improvement just needs to be really small. And if we lose weight, if we by these fantastic actions that we should be, you know, kind of aiming for, because we've changed a habit, and that habit is the thing we do most of the time, we're likely to keep that weight off long term, and we're likely to maintain that healthy weight.
So we fall back on habits, don't we? Either good habits, exercise, good food, eating regular, or bad habits, your booze, your drugs, your bad food, whatever. But we naturally fall onto habits when we're vulnerable, or when we're desperate, or when you're feeling poorly. You know what I mean? You know, you should be going, oh, I'll have a vegetable smoothie, but you go, oh, get some Vickies, get some Haribos, because you just want comfort, don't you? But it's all right. I've indulged. I feel yucky. I feel poorly, but now I'm feeling better. So let's prevent ourselves from feeling poorly again, and allow yourself sometimes to get under the blanket and have some ice cream. That's all right, isn't it? Because we're human beings.
Exactly.
But then get back to, all right, then I'm feeling. I'll tell you some of the best things I felt after all my new things. So I was poorly, and we're going to have a Kimber, and I was having a puff, and I was thinking, blood my neck, I've always been a healthy bloke. But then I felt better because the flu, the virus had got me. But then doing this, and I was great. We were running about with the baby, and it was great. And you're thinking, that's the reward. I'm feeling healthy now. So while I'm feeling healthy, I'm feeling robust, let's do something with it.
So the reward, that's an interesting thing, isn't it, about rewards? Like, what are people's, you know, what's the motivation for doing it? Because you have to have I think you have to have a motivation, don't you? And I think sometimes it's about exploring that with somebody, isn't it? Like, if you've got kids, or you want to run away, you know, you want to run around with kids, or you've had the dog, you've had a scare, or you know, there's something that you want to be motivated for. It helps, doesn't it? Because you've got a reward at the end of it. And I think it's important to have, you know, and I think focusing on, you know, like a lot of us do, and I'm shredding for the wedding, or you know, no carbs till marbs, or whatever the kind of phrases are. But you know, they're short lived. Whereas, you know, health for our family, waking up in the morning feeling full of energy, like they're things, they're rewards that we want long term, aren't they?
It's also putting positive habits into your daughter, isn't it?
Yeah,
she'll copy what you do.
Yeah, that's it. It's like when I packed in smoking, because it's always that thing. It's like, I know it's saying, well, my mum is smoking. You hate seeing your parents smoke, and it's, I'll never smoke. Then you start smoking, and it's, and she's, oh, Daddy, can you stop smoking? Because at school, Daddy, did you know if you smoke, your lungs will go black, and I don't want you to die. And then you think, bloody hell, I don't want my daughter worrying about stuff like that. And then, but you'll never quit anything because someone wants you to. You have to one day and go, I'm going to give it a bash. And more likely you're gonna balls up, and you're going to relapse. And you'll do it again, and you'll relapse. And then all of a sudden, you go longer without relapses. Then all of a sudden, you haven't relapsed. And that's with diet, with drugs, with any addiction, with booze, with anything. We probably hang the balls up.
I talk about that a lot as well, like about this, you know, the cycle of changing something, the cycle of forming habits. You know, it's you fall off it, and you get back in, and every time you go back, you've learned something new. You've learned something that's triggered you, or that's somebody that's, you know, kind of, you know, or when I go to, a lot of people are smoking, isn't it? If I go to the pub and I have a drink, then I have a cigarette, and it's like, well, you know, what else could, you know, it's thinking about how can you change them. We were talking about cues a little bit earlier, weren't we? What is it that's making that habit stick? And then you learn, you go back into it, and the same thing happens. But like you just said, each time you're getting hopefully a little bit more insight into what's kind of creating that.
And sometimes it's like, you know, I had a fag in 3 months, and I had one yesterday. I went, well, that's one day. That's one day at the 3 months. About the almost 3 months, and I went, oh yeah. I went, so you've done great. How many you smoked before? I smoked a 20 deck. Right. And how many did you have? I had 5, but 5 on one night out of 3 months. I didn't do bad, son, you know. And you go, you're right. Just because I have smoked doesn't mean I've got to go back into being a smoker. Because I've had a McDonald's or whatever your voice is, doesn't mean, oh, bloody hell, I've off the wagon, so that's it. I'm going crazy. Just go, it's happened. Did you enjoy it? Either yeah or that's crap. Either either, it's happened. The past has happened. There's nothing else I can do about it.
Yeah.
Move on forward from it.
Absolutely. And again, it's that time to take away, isn't it? That self, especially around, well, for me, like around food, of just like creating this, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And creating these kind of bad food, good food is like, it's just, we are surrounded by food and you know, we, like we were talking earlier, we mentioned that word, like that ultra process that we're beginning to know is quite, you know, can be quite damaging for health, where food is kind of has no resemblance to the food it originally started as. But you know, it's a case of it's just making better choices, isn't it? Bit by bit. And that undoing, you know, having 20% of the time making, you know, trying to not think of things of like this being bad, this being good, just like this is food that I'm eating. I know it's not as nourishing for me. It's not part of that eat well guide. It's not going to bring much to it, but it's one meal that I'm having this week, and tomorrow I'll make up for it and have a little bit, you know, make sure I get back to that balanced way of eating.
And sometimes that is, isn't it? Like my wife, like works in HR, running around like headless chicken, and some days on a dinner break, she'll go for a 10-minute walk because she's got a Fitbit on now. I haven't done my steps, and you see, and some days it's like it's got to be 10,000 steps, and we're there, and she's jogging on the spot in the kitchen. I'm thinking that's not being obsessed by the 10,000, but it's I'm almost there.
Yeah,
and it's in that not being obsessed, and I'd hate for someone to be obsessed. And I was worried about my daughter having it because I'm thinking I don't know, but I was thinking it's showing her. Let's be active. She hasn't got to live by I've got to do my steps, but it's I've done it today, Daddy. Oh, great! Or I haven't done it today, Daddy. Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. It's great.
Never mind.
And also it gives you that knowledge as well, isn't it? Especially because I don't remember having this when I was young, but that knowledge, like there are, you know, we do need to be aiming for something, you know, so you know, 30 minutes a day, whatever it is. I do the same. I got this same. I'm looking at my Fitbit. I've got my Fitbit, and I realise when I go to work, I can have a day where I'm sat down all day. I've got myself a standing desk one that I can take to work, and I do the same. I stand, and sometimes I just move, and I think I've stopped doing it now to count the steps, but because what I've realised is it makes me feel more flexible because I've not sat down all day. My posture feels better. I feel a bit better when I go home. I was going home feeling tired, and now I feel less. So for me, the action of buying that standing desk has really helped.
And if you are sitting, you tend to slump, don't you? Yeah. You know, if you're standing up, you're standing up. You tend to be tall, but you sit down, and no matter what chair it is, you tend to be slumped. And like all us now, we're comfortable. Yeah. But it's not an ideal position to be sitting in.
Organs are squenched, and we're all like this. And it's just put, like, once again, in my time off work, put my CDs on. I love my CDs still. Yeah. But I potter about, and then quit an album, go, I'll change it. So you're doing stuff. And because I'm in the kitchen pottering about, I do the washing up. And a bit of mess. And you just, it's easy to do stuff when you're doing stuff. Yeah. And I've noticed, because I haven't been drinking, the bin bag's full. I'll take it out now. Whereas a lot of time you go, I'll do that later. Or there's a bit of recycling. Oh, it's a bit wet. I'll do it later. You just think, I'm on my feet. I'm doing sod all. Let's just do it now. Yeah. Don't procrastinate. Just do it now.
I've got my watch. Just my steps as well, and I now aim to get 2,000 steps before I get out the door.
Yeah.
But what I like in the morning before I drop the kids off, so that'll be just walking around the kitchen, whatever. But I've also realised now is if you know you're gonna have a lazy day, don't put your watch on.
Yeah.
Because I'll stand there looking at it going, you should be doing something, but actually the rest is important, just as important as the exercise.
Yeah.
And that lovely some days, a smelly day we call them. Yeah. Where you just go, it's a smelly day.
Every day.
You're in your gym jams, and it's you're gonna have a wash now. I'm having a smelly day. And I said, some of the greatest days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just go, I'm gonna do sod all today. We're gonna put a movie on, we're gonna make some popcorn, we're gonna have some gin. Because you know what? That's bloody great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Isn't it just wonderful doing nothing sometimes for your loved ones?
Yeah.
But that's not gonna be you forever. And it hasn't got to be rewarding. Once again, from being childhood, you've done well. I'm going to get you a bag of chips, or you've done well. Have a Mars bar. We're taught that's a reward, isn't it?
Yeah.
The naughties.
Yeah.
And my daughter, you know, she obviously has treats and everything. No, I'm completely heartless. Well, like she has pepper and she has fruit, and sometimes when she's at a buffet or something, she still goes over because when she was little, she's always watching eating pepper and eating it. It's created a habit.
Yeah.
They're not good foods. It's well, you like them, so eat them.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I think, is that again, it's societal. And maybe you think back to like, I don't know, like even thinking about when a lot of this food wasn't available, it was okay for it to be a treat because it really was a treat because people couldn't afford it people couldn't afford it or it wasn't actually even available.
You had a bottle of pop that lasted a week.
Yeah.
A 2 litre.
You wouldn't be getting any more. So, but we live in this abundance, don't we? So the treat food has just become the norm, and we've got this association, haven't we, of this bad and good, and yeah, I think it doesn't always do a lot of good. And I try to say to people, like, maybe just taking the emphasis off it being a treat, and I've done some sort of weight management kind of healthy lifestyle programs with children who are above an ideal weight, and we'll often ask them for what rewards they would like if they're working towards perhaps increasing activity, or if we're asking them to perhaps have an extra piece of fruit or salad or something with a meal, whatever we might be doing, and then they get the reward. 9 times out of 10, when the kids are on their own, their reward is not a financial or a food reward. It is a time reward with their parents. A park. If you gave them a list, a lot of them would choose, depending on their age, of course. But a lot of them would choose a playtime, a something with their parent or another family member, and it would often, and then the next thing would often be, maybe a magazine or a book or something like that. But very rarely was it a food. But sometimes the parent might sometimes think that is a reward. So we're just trying to take away, and it's really hard because it's ingrained in us, this thing around treats and good and bad and rewards, and it just being like, it's a nice thing to have, it's an enjoyable thing to have. We're human beings. High,
isn't it? Quick buzz, bing, sugar.
Yeah, we're human beings. We've got it's our instincts to like these. Our taste buds like these foods, and rightly so, they're delicious. But ultimately, we don't need them that often.
And we're saying about exercise, like, because up here at the Lions Boxing Club, my home, we did the beatboxing and we do free classes. And we started this after it was originally called the furlough, but now it's called beatboxing because we're beating depression, obesity, anxiety together, beating loneliness. And we do it for free. And hopefully we can get some grants coming in so we can. I've been doing this almost 2 years now for free. And we were saying, well, why aren't the government funding places like here, like dojos, like football, rugby, ballet, whatever it is, to get people active, not just our kids, because we always think the children. How about us? The grown-ups are going, I've either got time but no money, or I've got money, no time. So if we could allow it to be like we do it for free in the daytime, and on the evening, I charge the kids £2.50, adults if they're not working £3, and adults if they are £5. Try to keep it cheap so everyone can do it. If we get exercise and fitness and well-being as cheap as we can, then we see the benefits in the long run with the mental health, with the physical health, with the social health, with all aspects, because we've got community, we've got connections. You were saying, what's it?
Yeah, connection. That's it. I mean, we know that the power of connections has like a fantastic outcomes on health and health risks, and being connected in your community, and often people who work in the community, not like as in paid community workers, just people like yourselves who are in hubs of the community where they're trusted and respected. They're the power, aren't they, to helping change? But you can't do it for free. You've got bills to pay and a little kid that wants magazines and things like that. So I think, like you say, the investment around community-based activity and education sessions around healthy lifestyle. I think we need to change the stigma of kind of people getting out of their homes. People I think probably are more anxious than ever, aren't they, to be getting out of their homes when it's exactly what they need. And I know, just talking about this local area, because obviously this is where I work, and in Netherton and Dudley they have got park and hubs and things like that where people can go to, but and I'm then you need familiar faces, don't you? And like you say, you need like real connectors in the community that help in connecting people with some of these things, and investment in things that are not just parks and leisure centres, but alternative things that people can come to, different sports to try, different activities to try.
I think it's also around having a common goal. Like, I often think about, like here, people who come here and do the sessions, they all have a common goal of wanting to get fitter, maybe wanting to box, or like running clubs. You think, well, anyone can go running. What do you need a club for? But actually, they have a common goal that they all want to run to get fitter, to get healthier. And it's easier to do when you've got people around you who are also trying to achieve similar or the same things.
And I think just you talking about that just reminded me, because I've just recently moved back to the Midlands, and I don't know anybody around where I am, and initially that was quite a lovely novelty, and then that soon wore off, because actually I didn't feel connected, and I put a little post on the local area where I am in Wolverhampton and said, does anybody, is there a running club? And quite a few people got back going, oh, there's the Harriers here and the Wolves Club here, and for me they all felt too organised almost. A week later, somebody put a post up and said, me and my girlfriend have just moved to the area, nothing official but does anybody want to meet outside the local pub? We're going to go for a run. We're going to go from a really easy 400-metre run, and then if anybody wants to do 1,000, a bit longer, but when none of us are fantastic runners, we're just getting out. And I've been going every week since for the past few weeks, and it's what a lovely. And I went because, well, one, I've really been running, so I've not been going very far, but also I wanted to talk to somebody else in my area, so that I felt like I knew other people. And there's been all sorts of people come along, and people who've just walked around but everyone goes back to this central place after each lap of what they've done, just to check in, and nobody kind of go, so the idea is that everybody just checks in that they're so it's safe basically. And I didn't realize I needed it until I went, and it's been brilliant. And
it sounds similar, kind of like the park run. It doesn't matter your ability, you're just getting out there, meeting people and doing some exercise.
But how many times does that hold us back? Well, I'm overweight, I'm unfit. And how many people that go like, I'll go up the line, but I'm unfit. I go, well, are you going to get fit sitting on the settee, eating a pie, drinking a can? Yeah. You come up there, and most people don't pay any attention to it. They'll be polite, like up here anyway. Hey, dear mate, have you ever done anything before? No. And then you're left alone, or they're encouraged. It's not going, oh, look at that fat, unfit git over there. It's, come on, mate, I'll show you. And the fear of being teased, the fear of looking like a plonker, holds us back so much in life. And often we go, you know what? I've wanted to do that all my life, and I've been and I bloody loved it. I'll be back next week. And then if you miss a month, you've got a job, you've got Pooley, don't feel like you can't go back the next month. Because how many people I see, and they go, Vic, why did you stop coming? Well, I left it too long, or I didn't. And I go, but I'm not offended. If you say I don't want to do it no more, I'm not offended. If you say, Kev, I broke my leg, or I fell in love, all right, I'm not offended. Come back when you're ready, if you want to come back. And most people in your running group, in all these groups, are like that we're not offended. Come back. Don't let fear and embarrassment and uncomfort stand in the way, because you might just enjoy it. It might just make your life a whole lot better.
Well, this is why I think they ought to have a no filming policy in gyms, to be honest, because I see a lot on social media now of someone exercising, filming the bigger person behind them and taking the mickey out of them and posting it, and you're just going, ultimately that bloke's trying to improve his fitness, or that lady, and you're here. And if he didn't get to the gym,
Yeah.
he's going to carry on being the way
Yeah.
he is. He's going to carry on being
But that's
overweight.
body shaming. That's a form
But
of bullying,
you're
isn't
seeing
it?
it more, aren't you? And I just think they ought to ban cameras. What do you need? You're working out, you're training. You don't need to have a camera in front of you.
And you get it kind of like just thinking about the eating and like people trying to like make those healthy choices. Like I think there's I even see it in, circles if I go out for a meal, people will be like, why are you having that? Someone who's trying to make a choice, like not because they're trying to like I'm on a diet, but feel like they have to explain themselves to what choices they make. Like if everyone, let's say, is having a burger and chips or something, and they decide actually I quite fancy that chicken. Actually, what have I eaten today? This might be the better choice for me today. But then there's like a lot of pressure that people make judgments on people, and a lot of it sometimes I think it's like I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like people are offended because they think that it makes them feel bad if someone's made a better choice. Does that make sense? Like, you're showing me up. Yeah.
Well, ain't you drinking? I'm not drinking. I'm a recovering alcoholic, or I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
Now go on.
Go on.
No, I don't want one. No, we never said that to a heroin addict. Go on, have one crank.
Yeah.
You'll be all right. You're off with me. And it's just like if I've made the conscious, and quite frankly, if I want a dirty kebab, or if I want a prawn, it's above you.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's my choice. I'm going to eat what I want.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we've got to see it, guys.
Yeah.
In everything. What's on my plate? Is it going to get you more full or more hungry? So leave them alone.
I used to be similar to that with my wife though, because she has the same meal every time. What are you eating that again? Like, can't you try that? And really, what does it affect me either way? I kind of change my attitude. Why is it actually? You know what? If you want to eat, the one that she's eating, good or bad, it was you bet that every time I come here, you eat that. Well, you know what? She likes it.
Yeah.
Because
I don't want to spend money and I go, oh, let's try this. I don't like it. I'm thinking now I've spent money and I'm hungry. I'm consistent in life. I am.
And I always just see that as my role as well. Like people thinking, I'm going to make judgments as a dietitian. I just think my job here is to make sure that people are given the evidence-based information, like the right information to set you on the right track for whatever your goal is. So if it's to be more healthy, well, it wouldn't be to be less healthy, otherwise you wouldn't be with a dietitian. But if it's to be more healthy, then I can help to make sure that but ultimately it's your choice. It's your motivation. I might even, see my job actually being partly to help to explore motivation, to help to explore what are the challenges. I'm not just, rather than just going, well, you really need to eat more fruits and vegetables. You need to be eating more of that and stop eating so much. That's not, that's not my job. And I don't think any dietitian would hopefully do that. But, it really is about supporting people's, goals, how they're going to get there, exploring the motivations and their habits and signposting them in the right way with the right information. So, yeah, I think what you say, people are just can be very judgmental and it's not helpful. And I'm hearing that quite a lot with lots of political things at the moment about how other people might define themselves. And I find myself saying, does it affect me?
Precisely.
No. Then I'm really not bothered until it does.
And that is great advice, because you can get there and you go, does it affect me?
Yeah.
No. And I think most of us want to let live. We're mostly good people. And that's what you got to focus on. You can easily go down the rabbit hole of everyone's a bad and everyone's a wrong.
Yeah.
Primarily, we're good.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with good people. What advice would you give someone? Last bit of advice on being healthier.
I would say, what advice would I give?
Because the myth of do more, eat less. That is a myth, isn't it?
Well, I guess, yeah. I think it's about taking evaluation and stock of why it is that somebody might feel they're not healthy in the first place. And thinking about, we know that we all need to move. If somebody feels that they're not getting regular exercise or they need to do more exercise, then thinking about places that they can access that are going to bring them joy to exercise. What hobbies might they have? How do they want to move? Have they got a green space that they can access? That's I think eating less is so oversimplified. It makes it sound so easy, doesn't it? But working towards a healthy, balanced diet is good. It will be good for our waistlines, perhaps, if that's what we need. But it is going to also give us the nutrition that we need for better thinking, better heart. Going back to that, lower cholesterol. It's gonna, so. And also there's all this information about, our immunity, especially since COVID, and how a balanced diet and a varied diet can actually help our immunity. So I guess I would direct people to look at like kind of Heart Foundation, Diabetes UK, the NHS. They've got good resources that help people to just make incremental small changes. And if they've got health conditions, then obviously see their doctor, maybe speak with the dietitian if they've got sort of specific requirements. But I think it is about just pointing our noses. I keep saying this phrase, I don't know where I've got it from, but pointing our noses in slightly the right direction, and you'll arrive at a different destination,
And drink lots of water.
Drink lots of water, stay hydrated, have a cup of tea if that's what you want as well. It's about enjoying our food environment, but enjoying it in a way that it's nourishing you as well.
And to people out there, like I know people that go, "Oh, I just snack all the time." If you have got to have a snack, if you are like one of them and you've got to be picking and stuff, what would you recommend? Would you recommend like fruit? Would you recommend nuts? And not like KP nuts, but like proper like walnuts or...
Yeah, I mean, I would always say, so if someone says to me, they're always ravenous in between like meals, I would be thinking, what's your regular eat? Are you eating regularly? And are you eating the type of foods that are keeping you fuller for longer? So whole grains, brown rice, whole grain pasta, things that have got the bran in it that keeps us fuller for longer. Protein can keep us fuller for longer. So I'd be looking at that first of all. And then if we're having a snack between meals, it's thinking about nourishing snacks. So something that's going to be, if it's around keep maintaining or keeping a healthy weight, it might be a something like a piece of fruit, or you mentioned earlier your little nipper that loves the peppers. Snacks, nuts, if they're not salted or got honey glazed on them, are a fantastic source of protein and healthy fats. So it's thinking about something from that kind of eat well plate. So a food that's not high in fats and sugar, something, it might be a yogurt, it might be, even a piece of cheese. I sometimes a snack, I'll have a piece of cheese because 1, I like it, 2, it's a source of calcium, and 3, it's it's going to keep me feeling a little bit fuller, more so than if I just have a Mars bar, basically.
After all that talk of food, I'm starving. Let's wrap up.
What's for tea?
So have you got any quotes or sayings before we go?
Oh, quotes or sayings, you've put me on the spot now. I'm going to have to think of one. I don't know whether I have. I mean, I think I'm just going to roll out the one that I think I said last time, which is, my favourite, everything in moderation, including moderation.
Well, Vic, thank you ever so much for coming up here, especially on Valentine's Day. I'm sure you're beating all the lads over the stick.
Oh, absolutely! It was chaos getting out of my house this morning. I'll probably have a nice dinner set up for me when I get home, or it might be a bowl of cereal and some milk. Actually, it's lovely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to come up.
And we'll have you back on very soon.
Defo, good.
So, guys, I want you all to take care of yourselves and each other. So, see each other next time. Ta-ra, bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.